across all your favorite podcast platforms. You could find us on YouTube, and please remember to subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. It just helps my show. What follows is just a little short video that my friend Chef AJ was good enough to share with me when I appeared on her show to show off some of my amazing culinary skills, making a dessert for her as we promote our book, Sweet Indulgence. Links to purchase this will be in the show notes. So I hope you enjoy the show, and I hope you will be amazed by my culinary skills. Thank you very much for watching.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ and Friends. I'm Chef AJ, and my guest today is the co-author of my brand new book, Sweet Indulgence, and he's going to be making a recipe from this book, pumpkin raisin muffins to be exact. Please welcome Glen Merzer. Hi Glen, how are you?
I'm fine, AJ. How are you? I have the same book here.
Yes, but you have the soft cover and I have
the soft
cover. And we decided through the help of wonderful bookstores like A Seat at the Table and Barnes and Noble that cookbooks apparently do better when they're hard cover.
Well, I can't wait to get the hard.
Yeah,
Is there a chance I could get it at a discount?
I'll think about it, but you know, it is a heavy book. It's a heavy book.
It's a lot of recipes.
Yeah. So Glen, this is our fourth time working together.
Yes, it is. There was the original unprocessed, and then there was the secrets to ultimate weight loss. And then there was, now this is our fifth time. Then there was Own Your Health.
Well, yeah, okay. So, but I think of it as our fourth book because I kind of put, yeah, I guess you're right. So maybe it's our fifth.
Yeah, it was Own Your Health, which was our third book. In that case, you added 75 recipes to a text I had written. And then we came out with the 10th anniversary edition of Unprocessed, which had some new material, some new recipes, some new introductory material, and a foreword by Dr. John McDougall. And now the fifth book, which is I think of it as sort of the culmination of your dessert recipes of all time.
Well, you know, if you remember correctly, we both used to live in Los Angeles. And after Unprocessed came out, we were going to be working on this book then. Remember, we even went to our Alan's house. We started the pictures, and then our lives took a dramatic turn.
Yes, and you experienced a good deal of weight loss on your new diet regimen at that time. And I think you wanted to stay away from desserts for a little while. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so we ended up writing another book, though. So that worked out really good.
Yes, The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss.
So of all the books we've worked on together, which is your favorite?
Well, I think this one, because this one, a lot of the credit has to go to Hannah Kaminsky. The photos are so beautiful. I really think, honestly, this is the most beautiful cookbook I've ever seen.
And I agree.
The photos are just amazing.
I agree. We can actually show some of them. And what's really cool is there is a photo with every single recipe. You guys spoke and we listened because our other books either had no photos or not a photo from every recipe, but there is 156 recipes in this book. And there is a beautiful color photo with every single recipe. They're mouth-watering. They jump off the page. Look at this cupcake. So yeah, I think you're right. It's really a coffee table book.
Yes.
This is one of my favorite photos, this trio right here. This was almost going to be the back cover, but we changed it to the peanut butter chocolate cheesecake, which is a favorite of actress Heather Graham from many, many wonderful films and television shows who actually endorsed the book.
I love this photo of spoons with desserts on it. That I understand was your idea.
It was my idea because if we there is a photo for every recipe, but if we put a full color page photo for every recipe, the book would be even bigger. And so I suggested that to Hannah, and first she thought, I don't know, but it's a really good picture.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's so cool. So what's your favorite recipe from the book?
Well, I think it's the jam bars.
Yeah, they're good.
Jam bars are just terrific.
Well, they're healthy. And, one of the things I love what we did, and again, I always joke, I'm able to write a book without Glenn, but I'm never able to finish one because it's not like Glenn and I like call each other up and say, hey, you want to write a book together? Usually what happens is I write as best as I can, and then I can't finish it, and then I need help. And what's it called? There's like when somebody comes in, the cleaner, is that what they call? Like Harvey Keitel in what was that movie? The person that comes in and fixes it all at the end.
Yeah, the fixer.
Yeah, maybe you are the fixer. Absolutely. So what I love what we did about this book is that it's a combination of all types of different dessert recipes. Of course, they're all vegan, and of course, they're all whole food, plant-based, and gluten-free, but they vary in calorie density. Because what happened to me is I was eating these rich desserts like the peanut butter chocolate cheesecake when I got off sugar, because there's no sugar in the book, because everything is sweetened with fruit, dates, bananas, things like that. And eating these rich desserts enabled me to get off sugar, but they didn't enable me to lose weight. And that's kind of when I stopped, dabbling in desserts and started actually creating lower calorie density desserts that would be suitable for like somebody following the McDougall program, where I get to teach the cooking classes, or Dr. Esselson's program. But we made it really easy for the people. And was that your idea, or was that, there's a fourth person involved in the book, Janine Elder of Potato Wisdom, who wrote a wonderful book herself. So
graphic designer.
we have I don't know if you call it a grid or a chart. Every recipe is rated in terms of sweetness. It's either, what is it? It's subtle. It's what do you remember let's see, I got to look at the grid. You think I would memorize this after having written the book, but it's either subtly sweet, which are the way I prefer desserts now. And I think what was the middle of
nice and sweet?
Nice and sweet, or superbly sweet. So it kind of lets you know. And yeah, here it is: subtly sweet, nice and sweet, or superbly sweet, with 3 strawberries. And then with fat, it's either low fat, semi-decadent, which is a little bit more than like no added fat, or rich and decadent. So it's really something for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's nice to know, if you're going to make the recipe, how decadent is this going to be?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're not much of a dessert eater, though, in general, are you? You're a pretty healthy guy, and you don't eat a lot of dessert, if I remember.
I used to. When I first became a vegan, I used to snack a lot in the evenings, and I would start with some chips and corn chips, and then I would have some cookies, and then I would have some vegan ice cream. And I was never overweight, but I was, or at least I didn't think so, but I was about 15 pounds heavier than I am now. And now I'm at my high school, college weight, like about 142 pounds or so. Well, when I was 157 pounds, you know what people called me? They called me skinny.
That's so
because in America, when you have only like 15 extra pounds, you're skinny. But I didn't realize it then. But when I gave up I didn't need those extra 15 pounds. When I gave up the corn chips and the oil and the.
But do I eat corn chips, but I eat them, I make them myself out of corn tortillas. Would you eat that type of corn chip?
Yes, I would.
Okay, good.
But I was eating them out of the package.
Yeah. When we lived in LA, there was a company that used to make them SOS free. And unfortunately, I think it was called Lorena, and they closed. And now
I used to have those, yeah.
Now we have to make them ourselves. So Glenn, who is this book for?
Who is this book for? This book is for everybody. Everybody, because if you're already a vegan and you're on a reasonably healthy diet, well, this is the book for how to make healthy desserts. And if you're not yet on the optimal human diet, the low-fat, whole foods vegan diet, then once you make these recipes and you say, oh my goodness, I made a recipe that's a delicious dessert, and I didn't use flour, I didn't use sugar, I didn't use oil. It's low fat, it's the right degree of sweetness. It's possible to eat healthy and still be delicious. That's what you're known for, AJ, healthy and delicious.
Well, thank you. Like, if somebody is a true sugar addict or a food addict, should they not get this book?
If someone is a true sugar addict?
Yeah, I mean, there's no sugar in the book, obviously.
Right.
But
Well,
if
like I say, everybody should get the book, because if you're a sugar, well, look, if you're a sugar addict, the best thing to do first is probably to perhaps go to the True North Health Center and do a fast and change your palate. But ultimately, you're probably going to start having desserts again at some point in your life. And so this this is a good way to realize that desserts can be healthy. So probably for a true sugar addict, get yourself healthy first would be a good suggestion. Go to the True North Health Center. But if you're not able to do that and you just want to gradually get healthier, then start with this book and make all your desserts sugar-free.
You know what I'm hoping, Glenn? Well, I'm hoping a few things. I'm hoping that we will be not only a New York Times bestseller, but a #1 New York Times bestseller. But I'm hoping that this is a crossover book, because I feel like, our other books, it's really interesting to me, because I've asked them at Barnes and Noble to put our book, the 10th anniversary edition on process, in the vegan section. It's not even in the vegan section. I didn't know if you knew that. It's in the gluten-free section.
Wow, okay.
And it's like, if people are looking for vegan books, they're not necessarily going to go to the gluten-free section. But I'm hoping this will be a crossover book, and that people that maybe aren't familiar with us or even wanting to be vegan will get the book, because there are people that do eat animal products, but that also avoid, processed sugar.
Right. Remember when I did my first book with Howard Lyman, Mad Cow Book? It told the story about how he was a cattle rancher and he was destroying the land with pesticides and herbicides. And then we went into health and, a discussion of heart disease and so forth. And I expected the book to be in the health section, but it was in the environmental section, in the science section. So you kind of never know where Barnes and Noble may think a book should go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because I think we do. I think, well, where I'd like it to go is I'd like it to go in the front of the store.
Yes, that would be good.
And maybe they'll do that at least the day that I do the book signing, which is Saturday, August 31st at the Barnes and Noble in Roseville.
Okay. Now, is there another Barnes and Noble in Sacramento itself?
There is, but I couldn't quite get that many gig. I mean, I could see if they would take me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not a bad idea. Maybe I'll contact them.
Yes.
Good idea. So have you ever tried any of the recipes in the book yourself, or do you have your lovely wife, Joanna?
Well, not only have I tried them, but I have made the pumpkin raisin muffins, and I'm going to make them for you again today.
That's fantastic.
And they were delicious.
Well, I like those because they freeze really well, and they're kind of really like just eating oatmeal, but portable.
Yes. But the important thing to do is you have to start by dressing correctly. And I recommend a bow tie when making the pumpkin raisin muffins, because earlier when I was practicing, I had used a long tie and it got caught in the food processor. And I hit pulse and I briefly lost my own. So you don't want to do that.
You're funny. People may not know that you're also a stand-up comedian.
Even people in the audience often go.
Yeah, that's funny. Even though, we did try to put some humor in the book. Like remember when, did we keep that reference to George Washington that made us laugh?
We did. We did. We made each other laugh.
Yeah. Well, that was the fun part, was the sessions working on it, because I remember the first book we wrote, Rip Esselstyn had given us some of advice that we weren't really making the recipes personal enough and talking about them. And we had a lot of fun going through each one. And I do remember we had a lot of fun making fun of poor George Washington.
A great president.
The first president.
Yes.
Somebody told me a joke about him today, said, do you know why he was such a rotten president? Because he was the oldest. Like, get it? Like rotting, rotten. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, not, but
I wouldn't use that.
Yeah. Okay. Edit. No, but anyway, cool. So, pumpkin is widely available all year round, at least everywhere I've ever lived. I've never had I know people think of it as a seasonal thing, but it's so healthy, and I'm told good for your gut microbiome, good for your pet's microbiome, that I've seen it available all year round. Did you have any trouble finding it in Indiana?
I had it available in this form.
Yeah. No, that's
And
how we want it. I mean, well, I don't even know if they were to do it from a fresh pumpkin, they would first have to cook it and seed it. And
Right.
it's just so much easier and more convenient to just use a can, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So show us the recipe. And
Okay.
the publisher
Ready?
said, yeah, the publisher said I could give out 15 recipes, like 10%. So we can give this
Okay.
one out. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you start with 2 ripe bananas, and you know they're ripe when they look modeled like this. All right. So you have to begin by peeling the bananas. Now, I have to say, AJ, you write in the book about how when you were 7 years old, you got an easy bake oven. And remember how excited you were by that? Could you close your eyes now and think about that moment when you got the easy bake oven?
I
Okay,
remember.
now open your eyes, and you are now looking at somebody who's equally experienced as a baker as you were at that time. So I don't have a lot of experience baking, and the whole point of this, I think, is to show people that if I can make it, anybody can make it.
That's why we wanted you on, not as a writer,
Yeah.
but as a baker. And I
Right.
agree with you. I don't think that most of these recipes are too complicated. I would say there's a few that require a little bit more skill. Maybe the peanut butter chocolate cheesecake or the stuffed cupcakes. But maybe the German chocolate cake, but I feel like most of the recipes can be done with anyone with a reasonable amount of kitchen fitness.
Even an idiot like me can make these. So you open that. This is the technique I use for opening the banana. This took me a week of practice. And there we go. We have peeled the banana, and there are 2 bananas, 2 large, very ripe bananas. So there you go. I will remove the peels there. I'm going to just chop them a little bit to put them in the blender. All right, and now putting, I have to take the cover off the blender. That's helpful. I'm now putting the bananas in the blender. Oh, this could be done in a food processor or a blender, but we're using a blender today. This is a half cup of plant milk, in our case, almond milk.
That looks like more than a half a cup. Wow, that looked like a big half cup.
Okay, now you have to use, this is important, not everyone can do this. You have to use your third hand to take the blender. Okay, use the third hand, and then put the blender in the shot. There we go. There's the blender in the shot. Okay, so now we are going to process this for a little bit. Okay. Right? Now that we've done that, we are going to add the next ingredients, which I have prepared. This is the pumpkin. This is 1 can. Or I have to, again, you have to open the blender. Very important to have the entryway into the blender. Okay, so this is the full can of pumpkin that I have prepared, and I'm going to put this in here. I hope it won't splash. What's that? Oh, I should use the scoop. I use this. Okay. So there you go. Putting the pumpkin in this mixture here. Okay. Then date paste. Now, date paste, I actually made myself from the recipe in the book. We use 2½ cups of pitted dates and 1 cup of liquid. We use water, and then we processed it. So this is now a ½ cup of date paste prepared previously, and we're putting that in using the scoop.
How did you make your date paste, Glenn?
Well, like I said, 2.5 cups of pitted dates and 1 cup of water,
Perfect.
and we put it in the food processor. No other ingredients. Okay, so there we go. And then we've got some spices. We've got 1 tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. This is pumpkin pie spice. And I have already prepared 1 tablespoon of it. And that goes in there. Then we've got some vanilla powder. It's one of the secrets of this book that rather than using vanilla extract, you use vanilla powder. And so this is 1 teaspoon of the vanilla powder that goes in there. And now we are ready to blend again. Make sure that this is on properly. Make sure this is on properly. All right. All right, we're doing well here now. Okay, so this is what it looks like blended. And now we have to mix in here, in this bowl, 3 cups of gluten-free. What's that? This goes in here first?
It's okay. I think you can put everything in the blender, quite honestly.
Do I not mix the oats first with the raisins?
Oh no, you can. I would just put the oats in the blender and then just stir the raisins in, because you don't need
Okay,
to.
so
Yeah, you don't have to blend the raisins because you know.
okay, so we're going to put now the oats in the blender. 3 cups of oats in the blender. And then the raisins.
And you told me you were going to use dark raisins.
Yeah, now the recipe mentions golden raisins, but I'm using the dark raisins for variety. And now, using my third hand, I am mixing it all together before I blend it. Not everyone can do this, it takes some practice. Okay, so are we ready now to blend it? Okay. Not, we need to knock some of this down before it'll blend properly.
Using your tamper.
Yeah.
Glenn, talk when you're doing that, because otherwise it just
Okay.
shows me.
Okay, well, I'm hoping that this will work
Yeah,
this way.
this is a good teaching moment. So I prefer doing this recipe in a food processor because my feeling is with the with the wider surface area, you don't need liquid in a food processor to get it to process, but the Vitamix or any high power blender, not just the Vitamix, kind of needs a little bit more liquid to really get that vortex and get it going, you know?
Okay, let's try it again.
But you probably could just mix it by hand at this point, and I think it would be fine.
Just mix it by hand in
I
this
think
bowl?
I think it would be absolutely fine, because really you don't necessarily need to process those oats unless you were trying to make oat flour. As long as you got that banana and the dates and the pumpkin pureed, I think you're fine.
Okay. Yeah, I was planning to do it in the bowl.
Yeah, that's fine.
So for everybody out there, you can see that this was an unnecessary step, but very educational. And I did it intentionally so that people would learn not to do it that way. And I hope that that was helpful to see that this could be done this way. There's still more in here that I have to get out. Now, the nice thing about pumpkin is that it gives it a nice holiday feel. Most people don't eat pumpkin all year round for some reason.
I actually do, because there's a recipe in the book, Glenn, called the almost instant pumpkin pie pudding. And
Mhm.
I use that as a base of my granola. So I am using pumpkin all year round because it's so good for as my grandmother would say, it's so good for the constitution.
And it's good for the Declaration of
I
Independence.
knew you were going to say something like that. It's so funny when I like knew you were going to do that.
All right, so now we have this here napkin, please. Napkin. Thank you. Okay, so we have this mixture in the bowl, which I am stirring up, using my third hand to remove anything unnecessary. And I'm just stirring this up. This is going to become pumpkin raisin muffins.
And we want people,
It's
these are not like your light, fluffy Costco blueberry muffins that rise. So we need to manage expectations, Glenn, that how these recipes, they're healthy and they're actually, of the 156 recipes, I think only 2 actually have any flour. So they're not like your typical flour oil kind of recipes. Actually, there's no oil in any of the recipes. There's no salt unless you choose to have baking powder or baking soda that has salt. There's no baking powder or baking soda in this recipe, so they're not going to rise. These are dense muffins, kind of like a breakfast meal replacement is what I would say.
Yes, they are dense and delicious. All right, I feel a little bit like a human Vitamix now, but I think I have stirred it all completely. So now what I'm going to do is using an ice cream scoop, I am going to scoop this up and put it in. You could either use a silicone baking pan, or you could use muffin liners.
We recommend the silicone muffin pan because it's completely reusable, and then you never have to keep buying the papers, and it doesn't stick to silicone.
So we're putting them in. This should make 12
It's just
muffins.
that we can't see your silicone. We can't see your muffin liners, Glenn.
Oh, here we go.
There you go.
Now, let's see. I don't know if I can get.
It's okay. You can just pick it up when you're done.
Okay, so I'm putting them in these muffin liners. Oops. That one was bad. I screwed up this muffin. This muffin is this one. I'm not eating this one. The wife will have to eat this muffin.
Well, you've never
Okay.
actually baked in front of a live audience before, have you?
I have no experience in baking before a live audience. fact, I have, whoops, it happened again. There we go. Okay.
Maybe we could call this episode, What Not to Do.
What not to do when making pumpkin raisin muffins. I hope people are learning from my mistakes. Using your third hand, roll up your sleeve so that it doesn't get in your way as you're preparing your muffins. There we go. That was a good one. I'm getting better as I go along.
The more you do this, the better you'll get.
Absolutely.
Which of the 4 books we've written together, or I guess it is to be 5, because we did have to do a lot of work to revise Unprocessed, did you find the most challenging?
The most challenging. Well,
Was it
the Secret's Ultimate Weight Loss was pretty challenging because that was a significantly long text and it had some science in it. And it had a lot of your original ideas about weight loss techniques. And we spent a long time going over the improvements to that text and working on that text. That went on for many months. As I recall, you gave me a first draft. So you had already written a draft, and there were a lot of pages there. And I revised that almost as an editor. And then we started working on it and working on it and working on it to improve it. And that seemed endless at the time. It took many, many months.
And, you know, before I gave it to you, Glenn, I spent 5 years working on it.
Wow.
So
that was, so look at this. This is beautiful now.
the other way. Remember?
Right. And I'm just don't look too much at this one over here because this one's a mess.
It looks pretty good.
Right.
I'm actually quite impressed.
Yes, thank you. And I did that while making a couple of mistakes along the way. And you know, you can't go through life without making mistakes. Like when I used that long tie and I got it caught in the food processor. So now we have preheated the oven to 350. And we put it in, and I'll show you now what they look like when they're done.
I think you did a really good job.
Yes, I did.
Did you actually get to taste one of them? Because it looks like there's about 7 or 8 here.
There are only 3, 5, 8 left. So Joanna and I have eaten 4 of them. And I will now show you what it looks like to eat a pumpkin raisin muffin. Oh. It is delicious.
Glenn, I think you did a great job. Let me ask you, since you weren't somebody that ever really cooked or even baked, what did you learn when working on this book with me? Did you learn anything that might be of interest to our viewers?
Well, I've learned how ingenious you could be in coming up with ways to make desserts work without sugar, baking powder. There's almost no baking powder. How many recipes have baking powder?
Really not too many. I think the German chocolate cake specifically, and the peanut butter stuffed chocolate ganache cupcakes, because these are things that are more traditional and we wanted rise, but we did try to avoid them because, you know, the traditional one, have you ever seen how much salt is in 1/8 of a teaspoon of just regular baking powder or baking soda? It's a lot, and nobody uses 1/8 of a teaspoon. People don't realize that is a big source of sodium, and you can get sodium and aluminum free baking powder and baking soda, but not usually at the regular store, you know?
Yeah. So without baking soda, baking powder, without sugar, without oil, without salt, what are the other ingredients we avoid?
Flour. For the most part,
without flour. most of the recipe, how many have flour? Two?
I think it's 2 out of 156. And we gave people the option, like, of taking the oats the way we like to use them, whole and toothsome and wholesome. They could grind it into an oat flour or use oat flour if they want, but I've never found it necessary, really, you know?
Yeah. So, yeah, I just don't think there's any other book like this that has so many recipes that are desserts that are so healthy. And the premise is this pumpkin raisin muffin is not as healthy as you know, a split pea soup with potatoes and mushrooms, right? This isn't dinner. But people like to have dessert. And so if you're going to have dessert, or for breakfast, you know, so you want to have a healthy version of things that are sweet.
Well, you know, the truth is most people are not going to completely dessert, you know, for the rest of
Right.
their lives. So we wanted to make it as healthy and delicious as we possibly could. And, you know, it's so, you know, I've been vegan for 47 years and it is not a problem to make anything vegan. What gets more difficult is when you take out, like you say, the sugar, the oil, the flour, and the salt.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm proud to be associated with you, AJ, to help you with these books that are making a real contribution to making people healthy.
Well, thank you. And honestly, I mean, I couldn't, like I said, I can write a book without Glenn, but I can't seem to finish one. So Glenn, if we do I don't know, have you ever had the dream to be a New York Times bestseller, or is that just my dream?
I would love to be a New York Times bestseller. I'd also love to have a play on Broadway. If anyone is listening now, I'm a playwright, and please, if you're a producer, produce one of my plays on Broadway.
How about The Life of
I
Chef?
even have vegan themed plays.
Well, that's true. I did see one of them, and you wrote a novel, Off the Reservation. How about a
Yeah.
life based on me? I mean, a life based on me, a
Oh,
play based on my life,
I haven't thought of that.
a
Maybe I can-
musical comedy. So if you make the New York Times bestseller list, who's the first person you're going to call?
I think I'll call you and
Okay.
say, "Hey, AJ, did you see the list?"
Well, I'm going to be, I mean, I'm not even sure how to access it. Usually I ask Robert Cheek, but I mean, because I don't want to look at it every day and get nervous, you know?
Right, right.
But that would, oh,
Yeah, we should point out to people that when they buy the book, as I hope they do, if you're all listening, please buy the book. You could also help us by writing a review on Amazon.
if it's a good one.
If it's a good one, yeah. 5-star review, and to let people know what you love about the book.
Yeah. And you know, I guess we could tell people this now, if they save their receipt. And again, it's very easy to get your receipt if you buy it online, because there has to be a record somewhere. And we'll have a special email address right below this video. If you email it to that special address, we will send you over $1,000 of virtual bonuses. We could tell them what it is, right? I think so.
I think you can. It's your show.
Sure. So basically what I've done is I've been a culinary instructor for, God, even before I graduated culinary school 21 years ago. I was teaching cooking at the first vegan cooking school in Los Angeles, Dick and Jane Cook Vegetarian. Remember Ryan Flegel, Glenn? Remember him?
Yes, well, Ryan's a good friend.
Yeah, on Pico. And I know that a lot of times maybe people don't do a recipe or try a recipe because maybe they think it's too hard. So I spent 6 months videotaping filming every single recipe. So you will get every single recipe on video. So that will make your dessert making even easier. Before this book came out, I was teaching these recipes in my dessert master classes, and you know, selling those were like $500 classes because they were interactive, where I was watching you cook in addition to you watching me cook, and you'll get that class as well. So it's worth the purchase just to get the bonus, if you ask me.
So every recipe, they get a
Every
video?
single one. So
Wow.
yeah, and so some of the recipes, like I think 30 of them, are in the dessert master class, which is 18 hours, 18 hours of classes. And then the ones that weren't in the classes, I hired a local videographer and we did them. And you know, we didn't want, like, you have 100 hours. So the ones that aren't in the class they're shorter videos, but you know, you'll see every step on how to make the recipe. And, just to manage expectations, especially if we are trying to get this book to go out to people that aren't just, we love our vegan audience, but we want other people to have healthy food. And hopefully that will get them into eating vegan or plant-based. So you'll notice some of these recipes did appear in other books, but what's different is they've been retooled and they have a photo. And I say that because, I don't know, I really recommend, Glenn, if you want sometime to try another recipe in the book, because if I'm guessing you correctly, you don't really like super sweet and super rich desserts. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right. So what I'm going to recommend, and I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you remember Tim, our friend, Tim, Tim,
Sure.
his favorite recipe is something called buried treasures. These are blueberry squares, and I'm going to recommend that to you to try next, because first of all, you don't have to cook it. So it's an uncooked recipe. And we were doing the shoot, I hadn't made that since Unprocessed came out, like, I don't know, 13 years ago, and everybody was so impressed how delicious a simple recipe was, where it's basically, blueberries and chia seeds and dates and lemon was the filling. And knowing what we know now about low fat and high fat, people have options. So when a recipe calls for, say, nuts or seeds and dates to make a crust, well, guess what? They can do it with oats and dates if they prefer, and they can lower the caloric content and the calorie density. And the streusel topping that goes on things, you can do that low fat too. So I'm really going to recommend, if we do something again, like another one of these episodes,
I'll be happy to do the buried treasures.
I think because the sweetness comes from the fruit, so they're sweet. But I find that when you buy frozen blueberries, they're generally sweet. Sometimes fresh, not. But I'm going to really recommend that. And so that's why you'll see some recipes that appeared other places. But without a photo, I think people are not likely to make it. Do you agree?
Well, the photos definitely help, and it also just makes it such a beautiful book. Hannah did such a wonderful job.
Yeah. Well, you did a wonderful job too.
Well, thank you. And could I mention, AJ, that because I have admired so much how you've done what you used to call Chef AJ Live, and now you call Chef AJ and Friends.
Right. Because before they weren't my friends. No, I'm just kidding.
I started a little, I think it was a little more than a year ago, my own YouTube channel, The Glen Merzer Show. And I am now nipping at your heels. I have over 1,000 subscribers. So I would love it if everyone listening would check out the Glen Merzer Show and please subscribe.
Well, I think I did subscribe.
Well, I wasn't talking just to you. I meant the people listening.
Yeah. And I watched the episode recently. I really enjoyed it with our mutual friend, Dr. Alan Goldhammer. And there was something you were surprised about in that recipe. And I'm trying to remember what it was.
In a recipe?
No, not in the recipe. Yeah, in the episode. I'm trying to remember what it was. I called you, and yes, that you didn't know that you could make wraps and eat them without flour.
Oh yes, that's right. He mentioned that he eats wraps, these raw wraps that you've been demonstrating on your show.
Yeah, they're delicious. Well, Glenn,
the extraordinary thing, if I may say, about Dr. Goldhammer is when he was 16 years old, he became a vegan, and essentially on the same diet I think that he's on now, a whole food, low fat vegan diet. And he decided that he would start a fasting center and do fasting therapy. And now, 40 plus years later, he's had the True North Health Center for 40 years. I think. So who dreams of something at 16, especially something quirky like that? When I was 16, I was going to be a center fielder for the New York Yankees. Who has a dream at 16 and then does it and just consistently sticks to it? He's just a remarkable fellow.
Yeah, what's interesting is he didn't. We have some wonderful people that endorse this book. We have not only the foreword by Dr. Neil Barnard, but obviously, Dr. Michael Greger and Dr. Joel Furman and Dr. John McDougall, among others, Rich Roll. And I asked him to endorse it. And at first he said no, because there are things in there that he does not recommend, like chocolate and peanut butter, even though it's all whole food, but he did it. And what he wanted to call the book, but the publisher did not like the title, even though it tickled me pink, was Desserts That Won't Kill You.
Yes. Yeah.
But the truth is these desserts won't kill you, but they will fill you with whole food without refined sugar, flour, oil, salt, and hopefully they'll also thrill you.
Yes. A wonderful gift too, to give
Actually,
to a
why
friend or
not?
loved one.
Why not? So guys, thank you so much for watching, and please consider getting this book. If you're going to get it, please get it before the 31st of August to help Glenn and I realize our dreams of being a New York Times bestseller. Whoa, we're not getting any younger.
Thanks, AJ.
Hey, thank you, Glenn. Take care, everybody.
See you
Bye-bye.
soon.
This has been the Glen Merzer Show, where everyone listening turns vegan, regains their health, and annoys their friends and relatives. Find us on YouTube at the Glen Merzer Show and across all your major podcast platforms. Don't forget to subscribe.